1.7 was, but they really promoted the number. And even when that didn't work, they even made it a little more scientific, made it 1.66. But the number means it's the absolute risk for getting breast cancer in the next 5 years. It's the threshold that was required to get into the tamoxifen prevention trial. And so that's what they used to make the recommendations for tamoxifen. That also means there's a 98.3% probability you're not going to get breast cancer in the next 5 years. So it's a curious effort to promote a drug when you know that it may not be needed. I'm not to go into the problems with that number, but that when you're calculating a 5-year risk can end up being too short, because if you're a 35-year-old with that number, you've got a lot of risk factors and you probably should consider tamoxifen. But if you're 60 years old, you're already a 1.7% risk without any risk factors, and your lifetime risk is much lower because you've already passed through a lot of your risks. So it's a lot more complicated than it came across in the initial recommendations. Well, in the breast cancer prevention trial where they gave tamoxifen to in a group of 13,000 women, gave it to half of them, it cut breast cancer in half, and that's what started the interest in risk assessment, to figure out what a woman's number is for breast cancer, to know whether or not to give her tamoxifen. And the key group in this study that kind of got lost in the shuffle because everyone kept focusing on this 50% reduction, but the key group for me was the women that had so-called pre-malignancy or atypical hyperplasia,